Good evening, everyone, and welcome on behalf of our dinner chairs, Karen and Michael Rosenblum, Cindy and Sheldon Small, and Barbara and Alan Wexelbaum. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Young Israel Lawrence-Cedarhurst 43rd Annual Dinner, honoring Ambassador David and Tammy Friedman as our guest of honor, and Talia and Ari Roffel as our Young Leadership Awardees. I would also like to acknowledge and welcome Rabbi and Suri Teitelbaum, who are in town for their grandson's bris. Mazel tov to you both as your family continues to grow. And it's so wonderful to have you both back at the YILC Dinner. It's been a taxing last couple of months for us all, so it is so great to see everyone here. Over 300 plus, really great turnout for this dinner. And well-deserved honorees. I'd like to begin our program by calling up YILC's Rosh Kolel of our night Beit Midrash, Rabbi Baruch Kleiman, to say a Kapitel Tehillim.
Shir lamalos esoinai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai Yosei shamayim v'aretz. Al yitain lamot raglecha, al yonum shomerecha. Hine lo yanom v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzilecha al yad yeminecha. Yom hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach ba'aloila. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor es nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeischa uvoecha, me'ata v'yad olam.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. Everyone could just remain standing. I don't want to give you too much exercise up and down now. I'd like to call up Stu Mayer, who will sing the Star Spangled Banner, followed by Hatikva.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Kolod baleva penima nefesh Yehudi homia ufate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo Tikvateinu, Hatikva bat shnot alpayim, Liotam chovshi be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim, Liotam chovshi be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim.
Stu, always top notch. Thanks so much. Our next speaker has a tough job. Not sure if he's already regretting taking on the presidency, but I can say from personal experience, I am learning a lot from him, as he has gotten me involved on way more items than I have asked for. I kid. As a vice president, I have really enjoyed working with him, and I look forward to continuing this journey with him. So I'd like to call on our president, David Safra.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Delegation is key. Shavua Tov, everyone. Mazel Tov to Rabbi and Sari Tattlebaum on the birth of a grandchild, to their children, David and Rivki. Maybe Zoche to Yachni Soto Bebrito Bismano, Mir Hashem tomorrow. B'shos HaRabbanim, esteemed and honorable elected officials, cherished community members, and above all, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. Your participation is a testament to the strength of our shul. I wish to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished honorees, the esteemed former ambassador to Israel, Ambassador David Friedman, and his wife Tammy, whose dedication and service exemplify the values we hold dear, as well as our young leadership awardees, Ari and Talia Roffel, who are just beginning their journey of exemplary community involvement. Your collective presence not only enriches our gathering, but also symbolizes the global reach of our community. Tonight, we celebrate not only individual accomplishments, but also recognize the collective spirit that binds us together. Our Achdus fuels our shared mission to create a vibrant and supportive shul where each member contributes to the tapestry of our shared experience. I want to express profound Hakarat HaTov to Rabbi Emeritus Teitelbaum, Rabbi Trump, Rabbi Schreier, and the entire congregation on what we've accomplished, and with all of your help, Bezrat Hashem, we will continue to accomplish this coming year. As we reflect on our achievements, let us look forward to the opportunities that lie ahead. Through continued unity, active community involvement, we could create a legacy that transcends time. Thank you for being a crucial part of this incredible journey. And let us forge ahead, hand in hand, towards a brighter and more connected future. Now to my thank yous. And I will apologize in advance if I leave anyone out. First, I want to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for allowing us to be here tonight. Next, I want to thank our rabbis, not only for the work on the dinner, but also for all you do for our community. Our Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Teitelbaum and his Rebbetzin Sari, our Morat Da'asra, Rabbi Yaakov Trump and Rebbetzin Malka, our Assistant Rabbi, Rabbi Ashi Schreier and his Rebbetzin Alana. The collective leadership, warmth, and friendship over the years has truly allowed us to become the shul we are today. Thank you to the Kollel, led by Rabbi Kleinman, and to Rabbi Bergman, and all the Magidei Shurim, who make our shul a Makam Torah on a daily basis. Now, every shul knows that the backbone to the shul is the office staff. First, I wish to give a warm welcome to our new Executive Director, Alan Dom from Canada. And a huge thank you to Alan, Razi, Alana, and Jill for your tireless efforts throughout the year, and especially leading up to the dinner. We are truly appreciative. No one realizes the amount of work to keep a shul our size functioning and thriving. You do it with aplomb, grace, poise, and now with that ever so sincere Canadian attitude. Thank you to our amazing security team who are here as our guests tonight. Bobby, Chris, Keith, Jean, and the rest of the team. We are so grateful for your care and diligence. Thank you to our maintenance staff, George, Jose, Selvin, and Elmer. And of course, all of our fabulous programming and activities require funding. And for that, we would like to thank the Sisterhood for funding our activities, especially for the youth department. A big shout out to Alana and Yael. Thank you to our wonderful dinner chairs, Michael and Karen Rosenblum, Sheldon and Cindy Small, Alan and Barbara Wetzelbaum. Without all of you, none of this would have happened. Thank you to the entire dinner committee, led by Steve and Marjorie. Yes, no last name is required, as everyone knows who you are. Your efforts and dedication year after year are truly appreciated. Thank you to Terry and Andrew Herenstein for the fabulous job on the Scroll of Honor. Thank you to Eric Herman for the exceptional videos, which you're seeing. Thank you to Genadine for the fabulous buffet that we all just enjoyed. Alo for the beautiful flowers. D Squared for the linens. Gary Wallen for the music, lights, and AV. Spruce Divine. Jerry Myers Photography. Naomi for the photo booth. Invitations by invitation only. And calligraphy by Rochelle. A big thank you to our raffle donors. As you know, this year we're keeping the raffle open until Purim. And after Megillah reading, we will be announcing the winners. But most importantly, I want to thank the ambassador and his wife and the Roffels for agreeing to be honorees. I hope everyone has a great time tonight, and now it gives me my great pleasure to introduce Rabbi Ashi Schreier.
Good evening, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here, to be able to celebrate our YILC family and to celebrate the incredible accomplishments, all that we've done, and to look ahead at just the amazing things that lie ahead. Just a few short weeks ago, we read about the greatest miracle to ever occur in the history of the world, and that is the splitting of the sea that allowed the Jews to get out of Mitzrayim and ultimately achieve their freedom. And there was one concept that Moshe Rabbeinu continued to harp upon over and over again 3 times on the eve of their freedom. Moshe continuously says, V'higadta levincha, ki yishalcha bincha, always talking about what we have to do to make sure that this continues. You got to make sure to tell over the story to your children. 3 times on the eve of freedom, and many of the commentators are bothered. Wait till we get out of Egypt and then give us a plan for what's next. Why do we have to focus on the plan for right after we finally cross the sea? First let us cross and then give us that entire plan. And Rabbi Sachs explains beautifully that Moshe Rabbeinu, our ultimate teacher, was teaching us a lesson for all times. And that is, in order to achieve immortality, the Mitzrim thought the way to do that was you build strong buildings, you invest in real estate. You go and you build up the properties. But ultimately what happened to the Mitzrim is they had all of these buildings, but they had no civilization to live in it. They had no people left. Moshe is teaching us, if you want to reach immortality, you want to be around forever, you invest in the Mesorah. You continue to pass it on from generation to generation. No less than 3 times, Moshe Rabbeinu has to mention this on the eve of freedom in order to get this message across. And I think this is what makes this dinner in particular so extremely exciting. We have the Freedmans who have accomplished so much and who continue on a daily basis to change the world for the better, for the Jewish people and for Israel. And we have their niece and their nephew who are going to continue that legacy because we see how we are going to win this fight. And the way we give it, the way we win it, is through passing on that Mesorah, passing on that tradition from one generation to the next. It is the greatest honor to have families celebrated together, families of greatness and families of tremendous potential for everything that's going to come. And now I want to transition for a second from the Roffels to the raffle. Could not mention it. And we have our raffle, as the president mentioned. It's a very unique type of raffle. We have 360 tickets. And the way it works is you go and you click a box. You don't know what number ticket you're going to get, how much your ticket's going to cost, until you go and click submit, and it's like a slot machine. A wonderful type of gambling over here. You go ahead and you don't know if you can get anywhere between $1 and $360. I see Brian over here. I'm pretty sure he got $2 last year. Brian, you better pay up this year. But to highlight this, I guess, in the best way, I see my grandmother over here in the back. Last year before Shabbos, I called my grandmother to tell her about the raffle. And I said, Bub, we got this raffle. You got to buy a ticket. Okay. She's so nice. So she bought a ticket and she got $26. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Bub, you got to buy another one. So she bought another one and got $36. I'm like, come on, one more. And she got $350. And all right, have a great Shabbos. But even though we know that the way that we continue our legacy is through the Mesorah, the buildings are important too. We got to make sure to support the shul however we possibly can. The raffle is a great opportunity to go ahead and do so. What an amazing night this is. We're so excited to be here. I want to pass it on to the video to honor the Roffels.
When I think of Ari and Talia, I think of so many different stages of life. Talia having grown up in this shul, watching you graduate, watching you become who you are, and then seeing Ari enter into your life, seeing your wedding from afar out in Israel, and then your introduction through COVID, first Judah, and then with a greater community, Noam's bris, and sharing all these moments with you. It's been such a moment of pride where you didn't just grow up here, you didn't just marry Ari and move away, but the two of you came back. And it's not just that you're Karen and Michael's children, and Karen and Michael are such role models of involvement in community, learning, chesed, involvement, and caring. That's all true. But you've become your own people in this community, and we're so proud to witness you're becoming your own. And seeing you bring your children to shul, seeing your involvement with the shul, Ari, it was such a pleasure to share that time, that special time in Israel, recently on our YILC mission. It's so special to see, Ari, that when you step up and you go to the Shiva houses, and just recently setting up Shiva houses, becoming part of the hidden chevras that go on in shul. Really, it's a pride and privilege to see people who grew up in the shul and are now becoming part of the next generation of building. And that, to me, is the role model of what it means to be part of community. We look forward to celebrating many good years together with the two of you as you grow your family and we grow ours together.
We are so honored that Ari and Talia Roffel are our young leadership honorees for this year's YILC Dinner. They are just such wonderful people. And, it really always reminds me, a lot of the Bali Musar teach that we have to remember that our face is a Rishus Harabim, how we conduct ourselves, whether we have a smile on our face or if we're always upset and frowning and angry, that matters to those around us because it impacts the moods of those who are around us. And when I think of the Roffels, when I think of Ari and Talia, they're always smiling, they're always so happy, they're always a part of everything that's happening. As we've been trying to build this next generation, they're just such a core part of everything that's happening in every way. Just such great people to be around, and we wish them the absolute best. They should just have continued hatzlacha. They should continue the great legacy of their parents and of their aunt and uncle, all of whom are very closely associated with YILC and very involved in YILC, and they should continue that and just help the Jewish people in every way. We wish them strength and only success in all of their endeavors.
How did we become members of YILC? Well, we started off house sitting for Tammy and David,
which was in the year 2019. For me, though, it started a little before that, as I've been coming here since 2000. I've attended many sukkah hops, Chol Hamoed activities, and even Bat Mitzvah Club, which has always been a highlight.
We fell in love with the shul, and we love it. There are so many wonderful minyanim here at YILC on Shabbos. The one we go to is the 9:30 Young Professional Minyan. It's a great way for us to connect with the next generation of YILC members, and the potato kugel at the kiddushes are to die for.
This shul and the environment here is just so warm and inviting. For us, something that's super important is the youth department, and our children certainly get to benefit from that, as we have incredible groups every single Shabbos, lots of different programming like petting zoos, carnivals,
and all the junk food they could eat.
Judah did have his first gusher here, and he does talk about that quite frequently. It's fun. He enjoys it. He looks forward to it. It's just amazing. And I know that my parents like to tell me all the time that I never took advantage of the groups, and sorry, Mom and Dad, but I'm glad our kids love it.
The rabbinic team at YILC is so special. They are extremely knowledgeable. They are so approachable. They are innovative. They think of everything. Anything that is going on, they are just ahead of the game. We had 2 brisim here in the past 3 years, and they were with us every step of the way. Any question we had, they were there to answer. I went on the mission to Israel with YILC, thanks to my wife.
When Ari mentioned the idea of going on a mission, I thought it sounds wonderful for other people to do, but not necessarily for my husband when I have 2 young children at home. And then as soon as YILC came out with their mission, I told Ari, I said, you have to go. And I just knew it was going to be great.
It was so special and meaningful. We had a little taste of what Israel is feeling now. I think we made a big impact. We gave a lot of chizuk to the Chayalim, and it was very special.
We are proud to be members of the Young Israel of Lawrence-Cedarhurst. Thank you to all our friends, family, community members for coming out tonight.
I love you, Mommy and Daddy. I love you.
Thank you to the Rabbanim. You have been incredible. You've been by our side the whole time that we've been here.
And thank you to our incredible and devoted parents. Thank you for teaching us what it means to be proud members of a strong shul and for leading by example. And shout out to my parents for being the dinner chairs, and it was totally a coincidence that we're also being honored at the same time.
And siblings, we did not forget about you. Thank you very much for coming.
And also want to wish a mazel tov to the main honorees, my aunt and uncle, Tammy and David Friedman. We are proud and humbled to be honored at the same dinner as you guys.
Thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
There we go. The plaque is underneath. This is presented to Ari and Talia Roffel on the dinner, the YILC Dinner 2024, on the Young Leadership Award, Be'ezrat Hashem, for many more years of involvement in our community. Be'ezrat Hashem. I want to start off by, first of all, thanking the one person that David left out, the one family that David left out thanking, and that is David and Rena. Where's David and Rena? Thank you. Thank you for your tireless efforts in leading this shul. You know, when we discussed with our coffee a few months ago, you said, what's involved? I said, like about half an hour a week, you know. And David, really, it's been a privilege. It's been a privilege, and you should continue to have the strength and be role models to your kids for everything you do. A very special, a special welcome and mazel tov to Rabbi and Rebbe Talia. This is the Vachnacht. They just came from the Vachnacht for the Rach HaYimol Be'ezrat Hashem, and it is special to be able to share a personal and community simcha. Hope that you get the continued nachas from seeing the kehillah that you built continue to grow. Be'ezrat Hashem. I'd like to tell you a story about an elderly fish that was passing by one day in the river, and he passed by a couple of young fish, and he said, "Hey boys, how's the water?" And one fish turned to the other and said, "What's water?" And that's the truth of our lives. We start the first bracha every morning. We bless Hashem to know the difference between night and day. Now, folks, if you're looking for something which is about knowledge, You know, we're not choosing the most elaborate creature in the world when we choose the chicken. And we're not choosing the most sophisticated distinction between night and day. But yet somehow our day begins by recognizing even the things we forget. The smallest of things in the world, that a chicken can know the difference between night and day. The water in our lives. I'd like to talk a little bit about water just for a moment in our shul. What goes on in our shul. Did you know that in our shul, just in our shul, we have 3 different daf yomi, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7:15 and at 8:30 every single night. Did you know that we have a Mishnah Yomi program every single morning after the 5:50 minyan with Sholom Huberfeld? We just released the new Tanakh Yomi app, which is in terms of Torah learning as well. Do you know that we have one of the most finest night Seder Batei Midrash led Rabbi Kleiman, the Aaron and Leah night based Midrash with 9 Chavrei Kollel, where people can come and learn every single night Torah in our shul, the engine room of what happens, not just a makom tefillah. Did you know that we have chaburas in every different subject across the week? We have the Gemara chaburas on Shabbos, Dr. Shalev, Dr. Siklik. We have Brian Adada's Navi Chabura. We have Moshe Aaron Malak and Sam Singer and Ephraim Diamond leading the Daf HaShavua Chabura, the Teshuvah Chabura, among many of the incredible things that happen in our shul on a single week. Do you know that every Motzai Shabbos we get to learn with Rabbi Ross, Rabbi Talia, and Rabbi Diamond, where tens and tens of kids, girls and boys, come out to learn every single Motzai Shabbos? Did you know that on every Friday, our newly retired retirees, Dr. Yeager and Dr. Weg, teach others every single Friday in a Kollel Boker, every single Friday morning? Did you know about the incredible amount of guests that we welcome to our community? Our Women's Initiative Learning Program, our scholars in residence across every single walk of life, and some of the most incredible speakers in the world, including our Hashkam Minyan. And did you know about our incredible secret at the 8:30, Rabbi Dr. Ari Bergman, who comes every Shabbos, a person whose knowledge and expertise, his name walks before him, and we have it every single Shabbos. This is all a little bit of what I would call the water at YILC. Some of the things we don't even notice and appreciate, which happens every single day. And I'd like to unveil for the next few days the next step, which is called the Megillah Challenge. I'd like to challenge everybody in this room to choose a perek or a daf of Maseches Megillah or Megillas Esther and learn together till we get to Purim. We have 6 weeks till Purim. It is Rosh Chodesh. This is the 2nd of Adar Aleph. We have 6 weeks to Purim. Now's the chance either to choose the whole Masechet or the whole Megillah, or a perek or a daf of Megillah. And if you'd like to sign up to learn at our Night Seder program to do it, or we'll have the resources we'll send to you, the Shir Rabbi Shrai and myself have given on this, please join us, please sign up. There is a QR code in the lobby to join this incredible program with our night-based Medrash program and beyond as well. But this is just one part of this. I'd like to talk about the Israel activism for a moment and just to stop here and appreciate something incredible that's gone on. In the last few months, we've been in such a difficult time. But I want to say to the credit of our incredible community, our shul, as a shul, has raised over $1.4 million for Israel. That doesn't include the $200,000 that went to the winter campaign that we just recently did and brought to Israel. And it doesn't include the incredible generosity of people outside of the shul. But I want to tell you that looking around, there's so many people who've done so many wonderful things. But our Kehillah did a wonderful thing. And under the auspices of our charity committee, and I have to say, Dr. Dean Stagg, Marjorie, Adam, and the whole team, it's been truly a privilege. But don't believe me. Listen to everybody else who has to talk about it as well.
To work together with this illustrious community to tackle some of the greatest challenges in recent memory. Young Israel of Lawrence-Cedarhurst is comprised of people who care and lead in making a difference. It is made up of people who act upon their concerns and step up when and where it matters most. We wish a mazel tov and much hatzlacha to the honorees, and thank you for your service to this community and Klal Yisrael at large.
Thank you, Ed Miller from AIPAC. Steve Weil.
When this war broke out and 300,000 reservists were called up, when Israel was facing an existential threat, not knowing if we were going to have simultaneously a war from the north and the south, you were the first ones who were there. We want to thank you for enabling us to be able to facilitate these mobile hospitals, these MASH units. In the case of many of these soldiers, those first critical moments and those first critical moments where they were losing blood. There was a requirement to put blood plasma into them to seal off the wounds before they could be taken to hospitals. It was you who provided that. And for that, we're going to be eternally grateful.
As we turn from the FIDF to Rabbi Rimon, who we work together with.
Unbelievable, your chesed, your tzedakah, your help for soldiers, for injured, for the family. Wow, kol hakavod for you and the Bedinsta and all the community. Bezrat Hashem, that always you'll continue to do things, good things for Am Yisrael, besimcha ubetuv levav, ve'atzlacha rabba bezrat Hashem.
And just coming from Yerushalayim, who's there right now as we speak.
Reporting from Jerusalem, I just want to tell you how proud I am of our shul. We're taking a leadership role since October 7th. I've worked with many communities around the country, and I can tell you that this young Israel has done the most in supporting and fostering other organizations to do more, the missions, the Tehillim groups.
And I have to tell you, coming back from Israel right now, we did our own mission, which was unbelievably incredible, 40 people from our shul, and I was just there this last week for a day, and seeing how many of our people are there right now doing their own missions and their own things. It is unbelievable to speak to our people. We are so incredibly proud. If we could have the lights, if that's possible. It just really, truly something to be proud of in our community. And the reflection I have is thinking about how proud it is to be part of this, is really, in a certain sense, is to think about the water. You see, the water is what glues us all together. The shul is the invisible thread behind all this. All the Torah, all the incredible volunteers teaching Torah, all the social activism, all the incredible efforts, even the fact that people in Israel together, working together, how do they find each other? Through shul. The shul is the invisible water that we sometimes forget. And we give all this money to Israel, we do all these things, but where did it come from? Is the shul. And this is a moment to celebrate our shul. I want to reiterate, as Rashaya mentioned beforehand, please take part in our raffle. We're doing the Goral on Adar, on Purim itself. So this is the beginning of it, rather the end of this. Please take a moment to be part of this. We're so proud of our community. But let's not forget that it takes a lot to run. And your being here tonight is part of helping us do what we need to do as a kehillah. We are so incredibly proud to be with you. And for the moment tonight, we've been all waiting for, is thinking about David and Tammy. David and Tammy. Murray once mentioned to me that the cemetery is filled with indispensable people. And it's true. You know, everybody thinks to themselves, they're so indispensable. And you think to yourself, so what makes a person valued? What makes a person indispensable enough? How can a person really make a difference? And when we look at David and Tammy, it should be obvious that they were at the right place at the right time, and you took the leadership role. And when looking at leadership, there are so many things that we can notice. There's, when it comes to serving as the ambassador and uprooting your life, your job, your family. Katie was still in school at the time. And going and making that sacrifice on behalf of Israel and on behalf of America. We can think about those achievements, the embassy moving to Jerusalem, the Golan Heights recognition, later on your book, and reflecting the Abraham Accords. Thinking about the movie that we just screened recently, the Route 60 and Bezrat Hashem, the coming movies. But truth be told, David and Tammy, these are the kind of things you'd hear at all the other dinners that honor you. I want to focus actually on something which is community-centric, and that is family and friends. This dinner is not about all the incredible achievements on the outside, but the fact that you, in your indispensability, is the fact that you are friends and you are generous of spirit and you have children who grew up in this community. And that, to me, is the most incredible achievement. All the people here tonight are people who are chelek of your part of this community, and we are so proud to be called your friends and to be friends of your family. It is so nice to have Daniel, Jana, Katie over here representing from afar. And I'd like to turn your attention to some more messages to the Freemans from their children. Please take a moment to look at the screens. Welcome to everybody as we welcome back two extraordinary people to our community, Ambassador David and Tammy Friedman.
It's such an incredible honor to have the Freedmans as our honorees here at the YILC Dinner, to see all the amazing work that's been done, that we get to see from up close and afar, to see the impact on our community and the greater world as a whole is something which is just so inspiring to see. We are so proud to call you YILC shul members, and we wish you the absolute best. Hashem should give you the strength to continue your amazing work. For all of Klal Yisrael, and we should only celebrate good things together.
Among the greatest achievements of David and Tammy Friedman are their children of such exceptional character. Freeman children grew up in this shul, and it's a very special thing to be celebrating together.
Thank you, Papa, for adopting for moving out to sea. Thank you, Sam and Santi, for giving me presents. I'm gonna say also. Thank you, Sam and Santi, for giving me presents.
You're amazing. We love you.
Love you. We love you.
Thank you for being amazing parents and grandparents. And Mazel Tov on your well-deserved honor. We love you.
So I also love you. Love you.
Mazel Tov, Mom and Dad, on this big honor. We wish we could be there with you guys, but we're sending love from Israel, and we love you guys.
Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.
Adasa, say Mazel Tov. Say Mazel Tov. Say Mazel Tov. Say Mazel Tov. Okay.
Mazel Tov, Sapti and Saba. We love you. All the time on this very well-deserved honor. We wish we could be there with you today celebrating, but we're sending all of our love from Boca. Love you.
Mazel Tov, Mom and Dad. I'm so proud of you both for this amazing honor. I miss you both so much, and I can't wait to see you soon and celebrate.
Mazel Tov, Sapti and Saba.
We're so proud of you and wish we could be there celebrating with you.
And the entire YILC community.
We love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are very few people we get to meet in life who stand on their principles, stand strong and resilient about their culture and their tradition, unabashedly, unashamedly, and unapologetically, and change the world. What extraordinary accomplishments, personal accomplishments in a world of international accomplishments.
Can I ask Tammy and David to please join me up on the bima? On behalf of the Young Israel of Lawrence-Cedarhurst, it gives me tremendous pleasure to present this contribution to the Fallen Heroes Fund in your honor and for everything you've done. And thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You good?
At this time, we're actually going to, the moment we've all been waiting for, going to invite David and Tammy to have a seat on the stage. And I'd like to take a moment to call up and join us this evening, Rabbi Dr. Ari Lam. Bechavod. For those who are not aware, Rabbi Dr. Ari Lam is the CEO of BZ Media, and if you've been following recently, he is this is an Israeli storytelling platform which has working with Rover Media, which has reached tens of millions of non-Jewish young individuals on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram since October 7th, and has partnered with many major creators like Nate Baz, Montana Tucker, and the world-class production and studios like Rock Nation. In addition, before October 7th, Rabbi Dr. Ari Lam has his popular X threads on why read the Bible in Hebrew has reached millions, and his podcast is one of the most popular in the English-speaking public. He is listed by Jerusalem Post as the 37th on the list of the world's 50 most influential Jews, and is working his way upwards. It is a great pleasure to invite back to our shul Rabbi Dr. Ari Lam to start the conversation with David and Tammy.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Trump. I would be remiss if I didn't begin by saying Ashreichem, praiseworthy is a community such as this that has powerhouse leadership of the sort that we've seen spearheaded by Rabbi Trump, and I think the leadership of this community deserves an enormous round of applause. We're living in the midst of an unprecedented moment in the history of Israel, in the wake of the worst attack on a sovereign Jewish nation since the 2nd century BCE, most likely, massacre of Yonatan HaMaccabee and 1,000 of his fellow Jews at the hands of the Seleucid Empire. And undoubtedly it feels discomforting to contemplate celebration at a moment like this. But I think it's precisely here that this kahila, this congregation, reveals its wisdom in choosing as its honorees for the evening Ambassador David and Tammy Friedman, whose work on the world stage has contributed in extraordinary ways to the primary reasons that we have for hope in the coming days. And I think great hope it is. And it's precisely that I'd like to speak about this evening, how your capacity to think differently, to think faithfully, and to think hopefully enabled you to shift global perceptions about the Middle East, and even the way that we in the Orthodox community think about our capacity to irrevocably shape global moral and political perceptions. And it's there that I'd like to start. Ambassador, in the history of this country, there have been only 2 U.S. ambassadors to Israel who have graduated from Orthodox institutions. The first was Daniel Kurtzer, a graduate of Yeshiva University, and the second was yourself, a graduate like myself of the Hebrew Academy of Nassau County, and that gives me great pleasure to say in front of as a West Hempsteader in front of an audience of 5 towners. One of these ambassadors was one of the primary architects of the peace process and a champion of the long-running peace process. The other was a deep skeptic of it. One of these ambassadors produced the Abraham Accords, a Peace Prize worthy, Nobel Peace Prize worthy endeavor that shaped how we think about peace in the Middle East. And I think if you asked your average Joe on the street, even your average Joe Chullant, you might be surprised at which of these 2 ambassadors created or contributed in extraordinary, remarkable ways to the creation of such an accomplishment. So what was it that made the skeptic of the peace process, longtime skeptic of the peace process, capable of creating something like the Abraham Accords?
So just before I start, I just for a second, just to say to everybody here, it's so good to see so many old friends, and we have just the greatest memories of growing up here. I grew up here even before, I grew up in North Woodmere, even before when North Woodmere had like 10 Jews in the whole place, so it's a long time ago, and joined this shul when we moved here in the early 1980s. We were one of the first members. We remembered Rabbi Kornmeal, and then of course Rabbi Teitelbaum and Rabbi Trump. And it's just great to be among so many good friends, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here. And if I can I did notice that I thought there was one couple that didn't get mentioned enough, so I'm just going to thank one more time Marjorie and Steve Kellner, because I do think they deserve it. Okay, the answer to your question, and thank you for such a good question. It's odd because I didn't go to Yeshiva University, and Dan Kurtzer did, and he and I could not be more different, and I couldn't disagree with him more on almost everything that he stands for. And in the confusion I have with all of it is where my approach to politics and geopolitics and government, it does begin, and it does get me in trouble sometimes, but not that much trouble. It begins with the Torah. It really does. I mean, that is the foundation for how I see this world. I wasn't the ambassador to Greece. I wasn't the ambassador to Belgium. I was ambassador to Israel. And from the day I got there, I just was uncomfortable with just beginning with the idea that I'm the ambassador to Israel and biblical Israel, as I learned about it in all the years that I was able to study. You know, biblical Israel includes places like Sholom and Shiloh and Beit El and Hebron and Beit Lechem, and none of these places are considered, even when I got there, even my own country didn't consider those places to be part of Israel. And I thought that was, a glaring error, and not just because of my religious views, but because as I would speak with people in the Arab world, in the Muslim world, and people, of course, in the Christian world, what I found is they didn't understand. They did not understand how the Jewish people were so cavalier about some of the holiest places that they've studied. Marat HaMachpelah, really, it's not a big deal. I think it's a pretty big deal. Same thing with Shiloh, Beit El, all these places. And the non-Jewish world totally gets that. Totally gets it. When I met with, I'll give you an example of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, who's the head of the United Arab Emirates. He's a deeply religious man, right? He built this incredible Abrahamic Faith Center in Abu Dhabi that has the Rambam synagogue, along with a mosque and along with a church. And I said to him, look, what would you do, like if you were me? Like if somebody raised a challenge to Mecca or Medina or something else that you felt holy, would you even consider that? And he said, of course not. Of course not. So my approach to all of this was we will be respected as Jews only if we respect ourselves. It's only through our own self-respect that we get the respect of the rest of the world. And so all these things that sound counterintuitive, whether it was moving the embassy or Ramat HaGolan or the Pompeo and I worked on we legalized, if you will, the rights of the Jewish people to live in Yudav HaSharon. All these things which people said it's going to result in a cascade of violence. We didn't see it that way because the people that we were dealing with, I think, had as much respect for these points as we did. Now, a lot of my co-religionists did not. A lot of the people who've been in the State Department for 50 years did not. This was not the conventional wisdom, but it's absolutely true that as the Jewish people show more and more respect and faith for their heritage, they rise rather than fall in the eyes of the rest of the world.
In the year 1621, Puritan leader Sir Henry Finch of England published a massively popular work called The World's Great Restoration, in which he called explicitly for the restoration of the Jewish people to their homeland, to create a sovereign nation there. And this notion, this yearning for a Jewish nation in Israel, which then and now is known as Restorationism, became a central feature of English political thought. And his fellow Puritans, the Pilgrims, brought this Restorationism over to the New World with them on the Mayflower, and they were deeply influenced by Finch. Ever since then, the United States of America, which followed relatively shortly thereafter, has had this unusual, extraordinary philo-Semitism, this friendship towards the Jews, and this warm relationship, this even a love for the state of Israel and for the Jewish people. And so my question to you is, how did you absorb that tradition as the U.S. ambassador to Israel, and what threatens that tradition today, and what can we do about it?
Well, I embraced it because that was the antidote to the accusations of dual loyalty. People would say, are you working for Israel or are you working for America? And I say, I'm working for America, but fortunately America's values are consonant with those of Israel. Look, I used to say this all the time, after the Bible, the most transformational document in the world is probably the Declaration of Independence. Why? Because it determines that human rights are not granted by the sovereign, human rights are granted by God, right? We're endowed by these rights by our Creator, right? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Why those three rights? Why Davka, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Well, our founders...
But it wasn't John Locke's original Girsa, right?
Right. Yeah. No. But yeah. So they read people read the Bible, and of course this Bacharta B'Chaim, V'karatem Dror Ba'aretz for liberty. I mean, happiness. Lots of references to happiness, and where do these words come from? Like where does the great wisdom come from that created America? Right. So we know that too. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. All these things come from Jerusalem. So I found within America there was mostly between the coasts. There is this great receptivity to Judeo-Christian values, which emanated from Jerusalem. Why are we losing it? Because Qatar gives $4 billion a year to universities, because the Saudis and whoever. I mean, because we're being taken over, both domestically and from foreign sources, in our universities. So, like the smartest people, the future leaders of our country are being taught that Israel is a colonizer. And now, how can Israel? You look at a map. Israel is the worst colonizer in history. I mean, you look at all the Arab countries, and you look at Israel, and you look at the history of colonization, and it doesn't make any sense. We didn't colonize anything. All we did was, repatriate our people to a small portion of what we once held. But we're living in this post-truth environment where you can get on Twitter or whatever. I mean, you know better than me, but although I do know a little bit about this, you can get a message out completely untrue, and if you put money behind it, which unfortunately people do, you can change people's perceptions, and I think we're at great risk in America because of that.
Tammy, I'd like to turn to you. Not only Jewish history, but world history has often turned on the decisions that great Jewish leaders, men and women of valor and vision, have made at crucial points in history, whether it's Moshe bringing the world the Ten Commandments, whether it's Hannah teaching the world about personal prayer. And all of these moments, it seems to me, begins with that decision to step out of your tight-knit community onto the world stage, that Lech Lecha Me'artzecha moment, where Avraham and Sarah traverse that distance from the backwaters of Mesopotamia to the land that would become the object of imaginations across the world for millennia thereafter. And that's very much the journey that your family takes, that journey from within our tight-knit community to this larger context. And in the ambassador's book, Sledgehammer, he refers to you as the secret weapon in that process. So my question to you is, what was that transition like? What was it like to take a family, a vision to the larger stage from this smaller community to something much larger?
Well, first of all, we didn't take our family with us when we made this decision to go. When my husband was speaking on behalf of Israel was not President Trump yet, he was speaking about Israel in 2016. In a million years, I never dreamed that we would be traveling and representing the United States in Israel very shortly after he became president. But he was the first ambassador nominated by Trump, and it became very clear that my world was going to be turned right side up and upside down. We didn't really understand what exactly our mission was going to be, but I understood that it was not something he could not do, because it was so important to have a voice to the president, and he had the ear of the president, very close ear. So as difficult as it was, Rabbi Trump alluded to Katie being only 15, she was in high school, and leaving our family. We did leave our family behind, and our grandchildren, 7 grandchildren at the time. It was the most traumatic thing for me to do, not for my husband. But we kept praying, and 2 of our children.
Fortunately, the mainstream media was incredibly supportive.
You know what? In the end, everything, thank God, everything worked out for the best. But it was a journey. I would never change anything. I would never turn back and say it was not for the right time, and we didn't do the right thing for our family. But of course, there were challenges. But to receive kind of great rewards that we did while we were there had to be some challenges in our life. So we're grateful that we had that opportunity and wouldn't change it.
It's amazing. It actually is. It's so poignant to hear you lament not being able to take your family with you. It reminds me, there's this I mean, there's this wonderful story, and there's a bunch of versions of it, but wonderful story of an inmate in Auschwitz who goes on the death march, and he's carrying his grandson on his shoulders and somehow manages not to drop him as everyone else is dropping around him and gets shot by the SS officers. And when people ask him, how is it possible for you to carry your child, your grandchild, all the way through the snow, through the cold, he says, projecting his sense of the Jewish future, he says, you think I'm carrying my grandson? It's my grandson who's carrying me. So my question to you is, in what way, though you couldn't physically take your children with you, in what way did your children inspire you on this journey?
Well, I think that our children are what inspires us to do everything that we do. And we know that building a strong Israel and a strong relationship between the U.S. and Israel is the only thing where our children will have a future, period. Not just here, but in Israel as well. So this was really, we were building for all the Jews in the world, and especially specifically for our family as well. And we wanted to do what we thought would be the only opportunity to make this change, because, as you said, there were many Jewish ambassadors. No one stood up for any of this. President Trump said he will move the embassy, and we knew he would, and that changed so much. It came to the Abraham Accords, everything sort of trickled down from that, but it started with leadership, strong leadership, and with a very good whisper from my husband into the president's ear, which there were many, many of those. So it was, they worked together to make a lot of important decisions, and I stood proudly behind him, standing by him and supporting him and missing my kids. And we eventually got them to Israel with us, but it took a while. But listen, Hashem had a plan. It was not in my charge, so we're grateful for the time that we were there.
And over the course of this process, looking back, what did you expect going in? What did you not expect? And if were someone else to have this experience inflicted upon them, how would you advise them?
Well, when we were sent, it was right before the president was arriving in Israel. It was a few days before. We had no time for ambassador school. There is ambassador school. They send ambassadors to a school. We skipped that. We went to a one-day crash course where we did like a medical course about how to...
We shot guns.
We shot some guns. We did.
That's the best part.
I mean, we didn't need to shoot guns. He had 9 security guards following him wherever he went. I don't know why we did that, but there was no way. Literally, we get to Israel, he goes to work, and then he leaves me in this house. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? So we had an amazing, amazing house manager, and she kind of took me under her wing, and she said, okay, this is what your job will be. I've been here for more than 10 years. I'm going to help you. And this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to help guide you through this process. And everything that we did going forward, my role, which was supporting him, obviously, but every event that happened, I spoke publicly a lot, which I was not accustomed to doing, which I was sort of thrown into that role. But we just met the most incredible people, the people that work in Israel, the embassy, foreign service workers, the military. Like, we'd never in our life experienced ever having any relationships with people such as this, people who literally give their lives. Every 3 years they go to a different country, and these people love Israel. They love Israel, and they were so grateful to be there. And the school, the international school that's in Israel, is one of the best in the world, not in the country, in the world, that the Foreign Service, non-Jews, I'm talking about people who are not Jewish, they really try to get to Israel so they can put their kids in this school, because it is the top school in the world. So that's where Katie went, by the way, when she ended up in 11th grade there, 11th and 12th, and when we finally got her to Israel. And it was incredible. So, I had a lot of people helping me, and my husband was working hard, and I was figuring it out, and I just figured it out myself. And, a lot of help from my people around me, thank God.
That's beautiful. Ambassador, October 7th made it, I think in many obvious ways, easy to see who our enemies are. But I think an underrated aspect of the aftermath of October 7th is that it's also made it easier to see who our friends are. And I want to step back a little bit. It's 1896, and after having just published a pamphlet called Der Judenstaat, proposing this wild idea of establishing a sovereign state in the land of Israel for the Jewish people, which was widely mocked by all of his peers, Theodor Herzl took a meeting that he considered to be extremely strange. It was with a man named Dr. William Hechler, and Dr. Hechler was a dear friend of the Grand Duke of Baden, as well as with the German Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II, and he actually introduced Herzl to those two, and that was a turning point, one of the really first turning points in the early history of Zionism. So that's why Herzl took the meeting. Why did Hechler take the meeting? Hechler took the meeting because he was a devout English Christian and a believer in Restorationism, and he was enthralled by the pamphlet Der Judenstaat that he had read. He was absolutely captivated by the idea that Jewish people would want to establish a state in the land of Israel as God had promised and as the prophets had promised in the Bible. And in fact, when Herzl enters into Hechler's house, he writes in his diary, he says, "The room which I entered was lined with books on every side, floor to ceiling, nothing but Bibles." Now, for a community like ours, to have a Svarim shrine is not an unusual thing. But Herzl found this as an essentially assimilated Jew, as he himself wrote. He found this deeply strange. And yet Hechler was strongly representative of this long Christian tradition of yearning for the Jewish people to establish a sovereign state in the land of Israel. And really, all the greats of the Western tradition, from Isaac Newton to Samuel Taylor Coleridge to U.S. President John Adams, were a part of this tradition, yearning for that sovereign Jewish state long before Herzl or any of the Zionists came along. So my question to you is, as ambassador, how did you encounter that tradition of Christian friendship for the Jewish people and support for the land of Israel, and how do you view that tradition?
So I didn't really understand it at all in 2016. It wasn't part of my world. And then what I found when I got to Israel was that 3/4 of the people that I'm dealing with, apart from the Israelis, but 3/4 of the visitors, 3/4 of the people that are working for me are Christians. And I started to learn more about the theology. Now, people had said, be careful because they want to convert you, and they're not really, their intentions aren't really good. So I started really studying it, and I spoke to a bunch of people. What was interesting to me is you talked about restorationism, right? So there's also this notion about replacement theology, right? Which is that the theology is that the Christians are the new Jews, and that America is the new Palestine or the new Israel, and that America is the new Jerusalem. That's in fact what the Pilgrim said. So what's interesting is that there was a time when Christians thought that they were the new Jews and that the Jews had been forsaken by God, and that came to a crescendo at the Holocaust. Then, in 1948, all these replacement guys see that Israel is being restored after 2,000 years, and they started thinking, maybe we're not the new Jews, maybe the old Jews are still the new Jews. And then in 1967, they became convinced that that God still has a plan for the Jewish people. And so, I didn't meet them for another 50 years. But I met these people, and they have no interest at all in converting me. In fact, I probably have a better chance of converting them than they have a chance of converting me.
It's definitely true.
And here's the number. It's really an issue of numbers. I mean, there are 60 million evangelical Christians in the United States, and they love Israel. And just having a basic command of arithmetic, I was able to figure out this is an important group of people to get to know better. We still do. Tammy and I were just in Fort Worth, Texas this past week. I spoke at a mega church, probably between the people in the pews and the people that were watching our platforms. I think I reached almost 1 million people in one speech. And look, if and it's a big if we have any chance to move America, in a Republican administration with a Republican Congress, if we can move America to a position where we can finally, recognize Israel's sovereignty over its eastern border. I tell this to the Israelis all the time, guys. You're the only country in the world that doesn't know what your eastern border is. I mean, it's enough time already. I mean, it's now 57 years since the 6-Day War. What's your eastern border? Is it the Green Line? Is it the Alone Plan? Is it the Jordan River? I mean, is it the blocks? I mean, you ask they got a different answer, everybody. I said, you have to grow up, because if anybody else makes this decision for you, whoever it is, you're not going to like the answer. So you and Israel have got to decide this issue. And the response is, well, what can we get away with, and what will America let us do? And my response is, listen, forget about America for a minute. Just make your own decision, develop a national consensus in Israel about where you want to go, and then sell it to the world. And do it again with self-respect and commitment. But the reality is that the relationship between Israel and America is very important, and the only way we can get to that point from the American perspective is through a Republican administration supported by evangelical Christians. That's the only pathway politically. So I spend a lot of time with them, and I love them. They're amazing people. They truly love Israel unconditionally. There's no like Rashi. There's no commentary. It's just it all comes down to really one pasuk. It's the one that my granddaughter was saying at lunch today, right? Daniel, help me. V'avarechacha mivorach. Avarechacha mivorach mekalecha or v'nivrachu mecha kol mishpachot ha'adama. Right. So that's it. Thanks, Dan. It's it. If we bless Israel, we will be blessed. If we curse Israel, we will be cursed. Now, we have 60 million people like that, and they're not going to last because the next generation is not as committed. So, since I got out of office, I said, okay, we got a time clock running here. We have to sort of, in poker terms, we have to draw an inside straight. A lot of things have to go right. We need a Republican administration. We need a Republican Congress. We need the evangelicals to stay strong, and we need the Jews not to fight us, right? Which is unfortunately the dynamic. I don't mean these Jews. I mean the majority of the Jewish people in America. So I think it's I think God may have a sense of humor here, in terms of why we're partnering up with evangelical Christians, but they're the real deal, and they do love Israel, and we need to garner there and cultivate that relationship.
One of the remarkable things to contemplate, in fact, on that point, is when we all talk about the sorts of Christians that support Israel, we talk about evangelical Christians. Once upon a time, it was the mainline Christians who were deeply supportive of Israel. In fact, the strong impetus behind Harry Truman's decision to recognize the State of Israel was, going all the way back to the Blackstone Memorial in the early 1900s, was this strong movement of mainline Protestants who supported Israel, were restorationists, etc. If you look at those denominations today, PCUSA and so on and so forth, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren of those people are now leaders in the BDS movement. Yeah. And speaking of Trump's point earlier about the things we take for granted, I think to an extent our community takes the support of today's Christians for granted in that community. And so speaking of keeping them strong, my dear friend of mine, his name is Nate Buzz, an influencer on Instagram, and he's an incredible friend of the Jewish people. Nate said to me, I just landed in Israel right before from Israel on Erev Shabbos, landed here. Thursday night I had dinner with him, and he said to me, he's a Christian, he said, being friends with the Jewish people, it's very simple. I believe in a God who keeps his promises. Precisely as you said. I believe in a God who keeps his promises, Genesis 12:3. So the question is, what can we as a community do? Again, we're small in numbers, but we punch well above our weight. What can we as a community do to keep that community strong?
Well, look, I still think, as important as the evangelicals are, the Jewish community is more important by far when it comes to Israel. I don't want to, be unclear about that. We need to be strong internally, and look, this may be jumping to a different topic, but we can jump around however you want, but we cannot afford to go back to where we were before October 7th. That is just an unsustainable situation where half of Israel is so much at odds with the other half of Israel. And the amazing thing is that I remember, we're very close to President Herzog, and he called me up in September, and he said to me, I've never been more worried about the state of Israel. We're coming apart at the seams. This is reminiscent of the Second Temple period. We know what happened then. And I don't have a solution. There's nothing I can do. I'm trying day and night to unite people. And the crazy thing is, he's not worried anymore, right? With all the things that that's the one thing he's no longer worried about since October 7th, that the Jewish people, paying a price that no people should have to pay, but the Jewish people are united. They're united in Israel. They're united in much more so in the diaspora. The level of philanthropy that's come out of the diaspora towards Israel, from this shul, of course, but even places that are less committed than Young Israel's, it's been unprecedented. So, look, I think that the Jewish people united, faithful to their heritage, knowledgeable of where they came from, and of one voice, are unbeatable. Okay, in a sense, just by doing that, we will garner the support of the evangelical Christians and probably others as well. I think that's the secret sauce. I mean, I don't like to speculate on what God had in mind, but I actually think, and I think we are a much stronger nation in Israel and in America. We're much stronger people since October 7th. Again, paid a ridiculous price for that, for the luxury of being that way, but we're stronger now than we were.
Tammy, one of the remarkable elements of the Queen, and I think underrated elements of the Queen Esther story, is, especially as Chazal describe it and as Chazal enlarge the world, is the way in which Queen Esther actually spends a great deal of her time prior to those heroic, confrontations with Haman in Ahasuerus's throne room, creating the connections that would later, or that would, in the moment or later, pay off. Whether it was befriending Hasach, her servant, whether it was befriending Charvona, as Chazal described it to us. And so my question to you is, over the course of this journey, who did you meet or perhaps even befriend that impressed you the most or left a mark on you? A Jewish example, non-Jewish example? I'd be curious to hear who you met on this journey who left that sort of mark on you.
Well, we met incredible people on this journey. I mean, I'm not talking even about high level and governors and prime ministers, but I think the people that were in the embassy, those people who served, those had a great impact on me personally, because even though I did have a lot of experiences where I was at events and I was meeting these incredible people, it was the day-to-day. It was the people that would check on me. It was the people that were checking on my daughter and making sure that she had a friend at school to look after her. Those people who are not Jewish and took the care because they knew exactly how I was feeling, because they too are in a new place every few years, and they're a stranger in a new homeland, which was my homeland, but it was not something that I was ever living in. So I think these people truly had an impact on me. We had incredible close relationship with the Prime Minister, and we spent a lot of time, and often my husband would disappear with the Prime Minister and leave me with his wife, which was a very interesting, nothing could prepare me for that, I have to say.
Careful.
It was a very, very, very interesting dynamic, because here she is, the Prime Minister's wife. She's been Prime Minister's wife forever. Here I am. I'm literally flung into this role. So I just smiled a lot, and I was very grateful for the opportunity to be there. Yeah, but let me speak. But just he was saying about Pompeo. Pompeos are very, very, very dear friends. So Secretary Pompeo and his wife, they traveled around the world. So I'll never forget, the first time I met her, she came to the ambassador's residence. We set up an event in the house where all of the foreign service and military wives and spouses, some of them were men, were there to meet her. She got off the plane, and she literally sat there and she talked to them. There were 100 people in the room about how they were managing and how they were surviving and how things were going for them. And she truly, truly had such a genuine care for these people, and they really, really, really were appreciative, because here she is, the wife of the Secretary of State. Why should she care? But she did, and that's what she would do. And I had so much respect for her when I met her, and we became very close friends after, the four of us. And we continued to meet with them, and I continue to admire the selfless work that they do for our country. And we were there 4 years, but they continue, people like themselves who are serving the country, CIA director and Secretary of State, and many other roles, maybe one day president. This is their life. This is the way they've chosen to live their lives. So it's those people who really had the most impact on me.
I remember my grandmother, Allah Shalom, Mindy Lamb, and a very different context, obviously, but I remember her describing that feeling of just being flung into this sort of Manhattanite world. She grew up in a small town and not knowing what was going on. What advice would you give to someone else stepping into this role?
Smile. Smile.
Definitely do it.
Find a really good hairdresser. Because, when we arrived in Herzliya...
Fortunately, not a problem for, increasingly not a problem for me.
We arrived in Herzliya, my husband said to me when we were going to Israel, he said to me, when he was first nominated, he said 2 words to me. He said, "Go shopping." And he meant it. Because, you could put on a black dress, but how many times can you wear the same black dress? But we were always at events. But before I went to these events, I needed somebody to do my hair. So the ambassador's wife wasn't getting her own private hairdresser, so I needed to figure out where I was going to do that. So I think just, for me it was really, aside from my family not being with me, I'd say that we just sort of slid into it because Israel was home to us. It wasn't, we spent so much time there. We went with our family all the time. The ambassador's residence wasn't my home, but the country, the people, we felt at home there, and we loved it there. And everybody loved the U.S. ambassador. We got so much warmth and admiration from everyone that we met, and they were so appreciative that how could you do anything but smile and just do, one day at a time? And that's what we did. So that would be the advice.
Well, when you get to play Joe Perry from Aerosmith's guitar, that's also pretty good.
It was unbelievable.
I can't even imagine.
You have no idea what that was like.
Listen,
that was my second day on the job. Second day on the job, I get to sit with Joe Perry and what's his name again?
Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler. Yeah, Steven Tyler. And
the rabbi's got you.
Yeah, and hanging out with them backstage was amazing. Yeah.
As a fellow guitarist, I can only dream on. That was an Aerosmith reference. As a thought experiment in preparation for this conversation, I actually went back and looked. They have them all online. I went back and looked through decades worth of covers of Mishpacha magazine. And I'll tell you why I did that. I had this thesis, I had this hypothesis, which turned out to be correct, which was that while Mishpacha magazine features politicians, has long featured politicians on the cover, non-Rabbanim on the cover, typically when it features Orthodox Jews, or almost always when it features Orthodox Jews, it's great Rabbanim, as it should be, and it's Askanim, Shtadlanim, people who are leaders in the community. But in the political realm, I couldn't find another example prior to the administration in which you served, prior to the last couple of years, in which Orthodox Jewish politicians featured on the cover of Mishpacha magazine. And the same is true for Ami magazine. And I think one of the underappreciated elements of those years is the manner in which Orthodox Jews across the spectrum, from the modern Orthodox community to the yeshiva world to the Hasidic world, began to think more aspirationally and more ambitiously about the manner in which we, with our values, as you said, proudly felt and publicly displayed, putting that menorah in our doorway, the way in which we could actually shape the political conversation, the moral conversation. So how do you think about the impact of your tenure on the Orthodox Jewish political consciousness?
Well, I had 2 covers in Mishpacha, and I think 3 in Ami. And just so you know, I did it for the Shidduch resume for my grandchildren. That was the whole point. that was the thinking behind it, right? Not that they need one, not that they need it, because they won't need it at all. But just in case, we could pull that out, just in case we need it.
Can't hurt.
Yeah. Look, it's interesting. It was the happiest part of my job was that I sort of made it okay to be Jewish and to be proud of being Jewish and to make my Judaism a significant part of the influences that caused me to represent America. Okay, and I was very happy because I know it made a lot of people look. And you can look now. I mean, I don't want to. Just by contrast, I mean, and it's not to say that the guy that took over for me is better or worse, but the guy that's sitting in my spot now, and it is my spot, by the way, it's not to say, but the guy who's sitting in my spot is a frum Jew right now, Jack Lew, and he was Obama's chief of staff, and then he became Secretary of the Treasury. He's a great public servant, and he's Orthodox. You would not know that from meeting him or talking to him when he came, like my first step. I got off the plane with Tammy. We met Talia at the airport. Went straight, before I went anywhere else, went straight to the Kotel, and most dignitaries or politicians, they want them to go to Yad Vashem, right? I said, no. The Jewish people are not exemplified by Yad Vashem. That was our worst moment. Okay, we're gonna go to the Kotel. That's our best moment. That's who we are. And I went to the Kotel, and no one had ever done that before. But it gave me great pride. And what was the best part? It gave so many other people. People felt good. I mean, people, who want to be part of America, who are part of America, who are very loyal to America, but they're deeply Jewish as well. And a lot of them felt, well, these are irreconcilable conflicts. And what I tried to do is, no, these are completely. I mean, nobody accuses Mike Pompeo, who's every bit as religious as I am. Nobody accuses him of dual loyalty. He loves Israel just as much as I do, right? But only the Jews are fortunate enough to have this monkey on their back. And I, as I did this more and more, it was interesting when I'll just tell a story. If some of you may not, I'll tell a quick story. On the 50th anniversary of the unification of Jerusalem, we had just gotten there like 3 days before, and Trump was coming the following week. And we get invited to Yom Yerushalayim for the 50th anniversary outside Shayafo. Huge, great ceremony. We were going to sit next to Netanyahu and President Rivlin at the time. And I'm ready to go, and the State Department calls me and says, you can't go. Right? And I say, why not? And they say, well, no ambassador's ever done this before. It's forbidden. Too controversial. The Palestinians don't like it. Jerusalem's an open issue. You're taking sides. And I said, there's no way I'm not going. And, the famous story, I said to him, write down this number. And they wrote down the number. And I said, you call this person. And if this person says I can't come, I won't go. Otherwise, I'm going. And they said, well, who's the number? And I said, this is President Trump's private number. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Give him a call. Tell him everything you want to tell him. And if he calls me back and tells me not to go, I won't go. But my point is...
The State Department with incredible confidence for such a low batting average on Middle Eastern issues.
They're low, but deservedly so, though. Yeah. But my point is just that, what's the point of taking this job? Like, if you can't stand for the things that you really believe in, like, what's the point? Like, I got like a 99% pay cut to take this job. It's like, it wasn't such a great opportunity. So, if you can't at least stand up for your values, and I was prepared to be fired every single day. I mean, my only barometer, my only litmus test is, are my kids going to be proud of me for what I do? Or are they going to have to explain to their friends, no, he's really loves Israel, but the politics are complicated, whatever. That was my only litmus test, is to make, if my kids are proud of me, and my wife is proud of me, and they think I'm doing a good job, that's the barometer. And that's why people should go into government. This is the lesson. The advice I would give for people that go into government who are not government, permanent fixtures, they go into government, do it to make a difference, do it to uphold your values, whatever your values are. And if not, don't do it. Like, what's the point? Like, life's too short. Don't get into one of these bureaucratic government jobs where everything you do is micromanaged and wherever I went, 20 people knew where I was at any point in time. And, literally, I mean, I got people asking me for selfies while I'm standing at a urinal. Like, you don't really need,
Lucky it was selfies.
Yeah, these are things I really didn't need, So I'm saying, if you're gonna if you're going to vindicate your values, do it. Otherwise, it's not worth the time. Yeah.
I'd like to close by asking both of you the same question. In the wake of October 7th, as we find new reasons every day for despair, for tears, what would be the case for hope at a time like this? And Tammy, I'd like to start with you. How should we think hopefully at a moment like this? We, the Jewish people, taught the world about hope. Teleology, eschatology, the idea that we're moving towards redemption, did not exist prior to the Hebrew Bible. We taught the world about hope. So how do we think hopefully in a moment like this?
So we were in Israel for the Chagim. We were there October 7th and a month after. And as David was saying, the one thing that we did see was the switch, the light switch that went off. And the way that Israel, soldiers came from America, the planes were full, they were racing to serve, and the people did not know what to do. There was so much chesed, particularly in the shuls that we were involved with in Jerusalem. There was so many opportunities to just give whatever way you could. And we were baking, me in particular, I was baking every week, and I was packing up bags of mini challah with a message for the soldiers, and they were being sent to the bases. And it was a small thing, but it was so important because these soldiers were basically, sent to war, without much notice. And it was the little things like that made a difference. Now the community is so involved. I mean, I'm on the chats with our synagogues, but the synagogues, specifically where we are in Jerusalem, there are so many incredible opportunities to help families. They've taken a lot of refugee families in Jerusalem. And I think that the hope that we see in the Jewish people and the country of Israel and all the people of Israel is what is going to allow us to heal going forward after this is all, please God, very soon behind us. Because without hope, you can't have any good times ahead. So I really believe that the Jewish people do see this as a turning point in our time in history, and I pray, we all pray that it will remain hopeful and that people will remain united and that we will be able to see hostages home immediately and the soldiers back home with their families, please God, and healing for the people of Israel, because it's going to take a very long time for the country to heal following this.
Amen. Ambassador, the closing words are yours. What's the case for hope?
The people of Israel are the most incredible people that I've ever met. I don't know any of them who have given up hope. Everyone, I'm not telling anything that people don't already know. I mean, I was at the Kotel a couple of weeks ago with a group of hostage families and some wounded soldiers, and this guy shows up in a wheelchair with a leg, amputated above the knee, and I was asked to give a speech, so I gave a speech, and then he comes up and gives a speech, and he's speaking in Hebrew, and he basically says, look, I believe in this country, I believe in God, I believe that we will be pulled out of these depths, just as we pray every day, and I gladly give my leg for the unity that I give my other leg. If we could just maintain this unity, if we can't, then this was a waste of time. But if we can keep together and stay unified, and look, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, the politics are still the politics. There'll be an election. There'll be people on both sides arguing, but I do believe that there is a recognition that we can't go back to where we were. I think here in there's the American Jewish community, I think, is somewhat of a mess, but I think the Orthodox community and the shuls here have responded beyond anybody's expectation. Actually, the federations have actually done incredibly well. There was a left-wing element that's really not helpful, but I would say the Jewish community in the diaspora has really kind of stepped up. So the Jewish community is a different community than it was before October 7th, and it's a higher quality Jewish community. And look, I think I think we have no choice but to be hopeful. There's some bumpy rides coming up. They have to decide what to do in Rafiach, which is, they sent everybody from the north to the south so they could attack the north. Now they have to attack the south, right? And there's still 4 battalions in the south, but there's 1 million people there. This is a town of 100,000 people. There's 1 million people there, and Biden has become overtly hostile now over the last few days. These are tough decisions to make and how this all gets done, but I really believe we will find a way, through this. And again, it's mostly just because of the people. And the other thing, which is, look, we have clarity today that we haven't had in a very long time. As you said, we know who our enemies are, and we know who our friends are. We know that with greater clarity than we've ever known, probably since I was on this earth. And we have to embrace our friends, and we have to understand now that there are things that we now know. 3 months ago, 4 months ago, going back, like I was never a two-stater. I was like the only guy in the State Department who was not a two-stater. The two-state solution is like the mother's milk of the Democratic Party and a lot of Republicans as well. So I can make the argument a lot more effectively today than I could before October 7th, and I think most people agree with me now. They understand that this is not, I don't know if you remember the game Stratomatic Baseball, where you just kind of, you play the game on a board. This is not Stratomatic Baseball. I mean, these are real issues with real people, with real soldiers. There are people that really do hate us. We can give them money, they're still going to hate us. We can build them a home, they're still going to hate us. Doesn't matter what we do, they're going to hate us. And we have to be able to adjust to that reality, and just and take the incoming that we're racists or we're somehow lumping people together. Listen, we're fighting for our survival, and I think we're in a different place than we were before October 7th. And under the right circumstances, and with God's help, and with the hope that I think many of us have, we'll come out of this much stronger than we went in, God willing. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for David and Tammy Friedman, our honorees.
Are we having dessert? A piece of cake, for God's sakes.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. We will have dessert, please, in the other room. Get home safe. Have a great evening, all right? Thank you.